Hello and welcome to Money Matters. Vegetarianism or plant-based diets are increasingly popular because of a desire for healthy living, triggered in part by the COVID-19 pandemic. Zella Chin reports on different types of meat substitutes and whether they're nutritious and safe for consumers.
It's lunchtime on Monday. Customers are scarfing down their meals at this restaurant in Sheungwan. They eat noodles, burgers, and fish and chips. But this is not an ordinary restaurant. It serves only vegetarian food. These colleagues just finished their meal. It's Raymond Yu's third visit in 6 months.
I normally eat a lot of meat. I want to have a change. I know eating too much meat is no good to health. That's the reason why I come here.
At another table, Kimberly Poon eats vegetarian curry pork with rice.
If you go to a Chinese restaurant, you cannot order this kind of vegetarian food in Chinese food, traditional restaurant. I think this is quite good and quite new style.
We designed it to be a one-stop hub, so dining and shopping.
David Young started the restaurant and grocery store chain in 2012. With an eye on the market potential, David's team of food scientists spent 2 years creating pork made from plant ingredients, what's known as plant-based pork.
In Asia, pork is the most consumed animal protein. In China, for example, 65% of meat consumed is pork. So for us to develop a plant-based meat alternative, it was kind of a very natural conclusion that we would start with pork.
This smells very good. What is this?
Well, this is our vegan luncheon meats.
So how do you make this luncheon meat? It's not pork.
Soy, beetroots, wheat, and also coconut oil. Those are the main ingredients. Now, of course, how to make it exactly a luncheon meat taste, that requires on formulation and our IP.
It's as salty as a regular luncheon meat.
I guess that's a signature of luncheon meat. So it's always kind of the balance of saltiness and just taste profile overall whenever we develop a product.
David, how did you decide to make luncheon meat?
Well, it's always the items or the food that we crave most in our market and are high consume, high demand. And at the same time, which are the ones that people feel most guilty about, that they would like to have a replacement or an upgrade. So luncheon meat happens to be at the center of both.
The new product was launched last year, and it's sold to fast food chains in Hong Kong and China. Over the past 18 months, David's company announced multiple partnerships with food and beverage groups to serve his plant-based pork.
They are also getting a lot of requests, whether it's a coffee shop or a burger chain, etc. And a lot more, even meat eaters are also saying that, hey, we like something like this. It is another option for them.
Last September, David's company raised $70 million from global investors to accelerate growth.
In addition to our existing plant in Thailand, which we are also boosting capacity, we'll also be building another manufacturing site in mainland China for mostly the China markets. In addition, we will invest heavily in R&D, we'll invest heavily in our global distribution network.
Currently, products are sold in more than 10 markets, and the outlets are in 3 cities. Felix Wong is a food and nutrition analyst. He says the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated consumers' interest in plant-based diets.
There were news about animal hosts carrying pathogens and hence infecting humans. So more and more consumers are associating plant-based options with healthier positioning. Meanwhile, I think at-home eating is increasing, and of course there is some disruption of the meat supply chain.
The market for meat substitute products in Hong Kong is currently worth about $30 million, and it's projected to grow to $38 million by 2025. That's only a fraction of the conventional meat market in Hong Kong, which is projected to be $1.3 billion in 2025. Over at the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park in Sha Tin, another type of meat substitute is being made, what's known as lab-grown meat. This startup grows fish from fish cells. The chief scientist explains it starts with taking muscle tissue from the fish meat.
We put it into nutritional broth, which contain all the nutrients that they need, for example, amino acid, vitamins, glucose, and minerals. And basically, we take a tube into this centrifuge, and then we steam down all the cells, collect the cells to the bottom, and then we can put it into the incubator and let them grow.
After 3 weeks of growing in the incubator, this fish fillet is ready to be cooked. First, dip it in soy milk. Then add breadcrumbs, and finally fry it in oil. And now for the taste tests.
Oh, looks just like a fish fillet.
That's good.
Yeah, if you didn't tell me it was cell-grown, I wouldn't have known.
Bon appetit. It tastes good. Yeah, it's very moist.
I think it's the tartar sauce that makes it really good.
Oh yeah, it's meshed perfectly with the cabbage straw.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Day cook. You can do this at night and your lab stuff during the day.
Oh yeah, sounds good.
The cost of raw materials to make one lab-grown fish fillet is about $15 versus $20 per kilogram for conventional fish fillet. While the technology can be used for many different types of meats, Mario and his partner Carrie Chan chose to focus on fish when they started the company in 2018.
Roughly about 60% of the seafood and fish is actually consumed in Asia. And so we reckon that is a lot of opportunity, and also it is where we've been consuming a lot of the resources from the ocean.
So far, they've raised about $4 million in funding.
That we're going beyond the early stage of R&D and going on to start to our scale up and also ramping up to our pilot production.
And Carrie wants to develop partnerships with consumer products companies.
So we can supply to them our cultured meat, fish meat, or the cultured fish fillet, and then the rest of the breading, the seasoning, and also the cooking or the frying, and then frozen and package it as a consumer product will be done by the food brand that we collaborate with.
As this type of food production is quite new, Carrie wants a stamp of approval from the authorities for her lab-grown fish before selling it.
General consumers, when it comes to new technology, they will have a higher level of confidence when there is a third party, independent party, who do the vetting process. So I think that with the government approval, it will definitely boost the level of confidence on the part of consumers to try these new tech products.
Hong Kong doesn't have a specific ordinance or law for lab-grown meats. In an email, the Center for Food Safety writes, developers of cultured meat should ensure that the cultured meat products are safe for human consumption. Carrie is applying for regulatory approval in Singapore. It created a regulatory framework in 2019 to ensure that novel foods such as lab-grown meat fulfill the city's food safety standards before being sold. These assessments cover potential food safety risks such as toxicity, allergenicity, safety of its production method, and dietary exposure arising from consumption. Last year, for the first time globally, Singapore approved lab-grown chicken made by American startup Eat Just.
Now with this first case approved, I think it sent a very clear signal to the general audience, investors and company. That means that there's more certain route to the market and revenue.
Dr. Jimmy Louie is a nutrition academic and conducts research with Hong Kong Center for Food Safety. After examining the nutritional information of the lab-grown chicken, he says it's as nutritious as conventional chicken.
The protein contained in the cell-grown chicken should be what we call the complete protein, which contains all the essential amino acids for health, except that the concentration of total protein is lower compared with the conventional chicken. You need to eat more of that to get the same amount of protein.
As for the vegetarian luncheon meat, it's made from plant-based ingredients, so it's safe for consumption.
So, Professor Louie, is this plant-based luncheon meat nutritious?
It's not very different from the traditional luncheon meat in that it is still quite high in saturated fat and sodium.
It smells quite good, so it's bad for me, I think.
It smells quite good. It smells like the real thing.
While the meat substitutes are nutritionally similar to the originals, they won't completely replace the real thing anytime soon.
We see the presence of meat and other alternative sources of protein parallel to each other, or sometimes even complementary. Some consumers are really inclined to the meaty taste of meat, and this is actually one very important factor of why meat has been persisting in thousands of years in food history.
Coming up on Money Matters, a quiet, green, and sandy refuge